Our 95.7 Game Insider, Anthony Slater. He knows the Warriors inside and out. Man, they're worth $7 billion, Anthony. Must be nice.
Their salary cap's about worth $7 billion.
There's no doubt about that.
Isn't that what they did a couple of years ago to generate some money? It'd be like the equivalent of going IPO or the equivalent of refinancing when your home has built a ton of equity. They got someone to buy in on some of their shares, correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not like super expert in the whole like Goldman Sachs, I guess, realm of this world. But yeah, I mean, generally it was done during the pandemic because there was a lot of money they thought they were going to make that they weren't making, but they could pitch to, I guess, lenders, you would say, like, hey, money will be coming.
Right.
And, eventually fans will be back in this sparkling new arena. Concerts will be back in this arena. And as we all know, they own 100% of it. So concerts, they make money too. And they were correct, and they were correct in a big way because what we didn't foresee, and maybe even lenders or whoever didn't foresee, was they were coming back with an NBA champion. And that's been the big thing. Like, they're back as like the dynasty brand when we didn't know that they would kind of, maintain that.
Well, the dynasty brand is taking a hit the first 4 games, Anthony. As you know, as everybody knows at this point, they've given up 70 points in the first half in 3 straight games, 70, 71, 72. They've given up at least 36 points in the first quarter, the last 3 games, 40, 36, and 37, of course. So defense seems to be the theme, and Wiseman continues to get the brunt of the blame when it comes to defense, although I think the starters, Anthony, haven't set a good tone when it comes to defense.
Well, I mean, the starters together actually have a really good defensive rating. I believe it's like 99.1, which is, elite, really. So together, the starters are fine. They're very plus for the season. They're one of the best 5-man units. Now, they are within other units that are terrible defensively, right? Basically, any other Warriors unit is bad right now.
Right.
You put Jordan Poole in, you put whoever in, they're just not defending at all. Now, James Wiseman is the worst plus-minus on the team. I think he's like second worst in the league at this point. He was worst entering yesterday, minus 54. Pretty much all his lineup combinations have been very bad defensively, whereas Looney's been on the floor. I think it's about 82 minutes. Maybe I'm underselling him, but I know his defensive rating is 102.1. So, I mean, look, it's a 4-game sample, but we also can go back to Wiseman's rookie season. Like, when he was on the floor, they were not good defensively. They would swap Looney for him. Remember how many times they would flip-flop those two in the starting lineup?
Right.
They were just sturdier defensively, which shouldn't be a surprise, right? Looney is probably one of the most underrated big men defenders in the league, and Wiseman is super young. And, I mean, you go back to DeAndre Ayton, year 1, terrible defensively, year 2, not great, but better. And I kind of consider this year 2 for James Wiseman. And he got better. And, you do expect Wiseman to get better long-term, but better doesn't mean great in game 43 of his career, I believe was his last game. Right.
Yeah, no, 43 games, career games for James Wiseman. Offensively, he's starting to look a bit more polished. Is he, at some point, will he become unplayable due to the plus-minus of his defensive stints here?
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. It's like they're 2-2 through 4 games. They have a stretch of, like, very beatable teams coming up. They're not going to obsess. We knew this coming in, right? This was they don't care, to get the 1 seed over the 3 seed, and because of that, they're going to play every game like it's a playoff game. Like, there's going to be games coming up, particularly back-to-backs. They have a Charlotte, Detroit back-to-back this week.
Yeah, Sunday.
Probably going to rest some guys. I mean, they haven't announced that, but I don't imagine Klay Thompson's playing on both sides of back-to-backs. They have a couple back-to-backs on the backside in New Orleans in the next month. Probably going to be a young guy heaven, right? I mean, like, this over the course of the season, they're going to go through rough patches and they're going to go through rest patches. And, this currently is a bad defensive stretch, but at the same time, like, they need to get these young guys as ready as possible for later in the season. If they do deal with injuries, if they do have to go to one of them in a playoff series, we know if tonight was game 3 of a playoff series, the minute allotment would look a lot like game 3 of the finals looked, which is like 42 minutes for the main guys, 36 minutes for Poole off the bench, very tiny minute totals for like 2 or 3 other guys, and probably an 8-9-man rotation. But why would Steve Kerr play regular season game 5 like that? We all understand that concept, but I also know in the moment it's very angsty when they're 2-2 and they're defending like the 22nd best team in the league.
What'd you make of the Klay Thompson outburst the other night and the ejection?
I mean, he's frustrated. It felt like just like boiling frustration that goes back to preseason when, he admitted, kind of that mental block that had him behind conditioning wise because he couldn't scrimmage over the summer, and then, this minute restriction that even you go back to last year when he came back, when his body was in a lot, I guess, worse place in a sense, because he hadn't played in 941 days. He would be so frustrated with that 20-minute total and the fact that he would play the first 5 minutes of a half and basically get ice cold sitting for 15 minutes and before he came back. So I think it's some of that. He's not shooting well. I think just the sight of Devin Booker, who Devin Booker has become. Devin Booker used to look up to Klay Thompson. I want to be like Klay Thompson in the league, and he's kind of, in a lot of ways, come back to a league where, just from a stature standpoint, Devin Booker has leaped him in the two-guard rankings, right? I mean, if Klay, who believes he can be an all-star again, is looking at whose all-star spot he can maybe take, I mean, we're talking Devin Booker, right? I mean, he's usually that third, fourth guard in the league. On a winner, two-guard, he kind of defends, and he shoots at a really, high-efficient clip. So I think there's some of that. And he wasn't playing well. He's 1 of 8. I think it was a frustrated moment. It was a road game. It was the first time Klay played in Phoenix at all. And I just think, it's like a teapot, right? You just kind of boil over, and we've seen it. We've never quite seen it like that with Klay, but we have before. Remember Zach Collins in Portland?
Yeah, right before the All-Star break. Yeah, KD's last year in Portland. He was talking big to Zach Collins. And we haven't heard from Zach Collins since.
Yeah, well, you're going to hear from him in San Antonio. He's been part of that.
I like Zach Collins.
For the Spurs.
I thought he'd be a lot better at this stage of his career. I did like him coming out of Gonzaga.
Who is Klay Thompson currently? I know everyone, he's coming back, and he's going to be old Klay. But forget old Klay. Who is he right now as a player?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's an elite floor spacer. You put him in any lineup, and you're spread much wider open, just, by him being on the floor, because defenses know who he is. He is capable of getting hot at any moment, detonating. I mean, the opening game of this season, he had, I think, 18 points in 20 minutes. Not many 20-minute per player, 20-minute players in the league can score 18 points. So he's kind of a microwave scorer. At times, if his jumper's off, he's kind of an inefficient chucker. So that can hurt a team. But he's always been like that. He just
agreed.
He is no longer the elite defender he used to be from a lateral standpoint. You cannot throw him on the best players in the league for 37 minutes a night and say just hound them, chase them everywhere. He's more. You could put him on those guys in spurts. He's still extremely competitive. The play that actually sparked the argument with Devin Booker the other night, remember he stripped him on the sideline. It went out off him, but you could tell he was like, after he did that, he said something to Booker, probably I still got you. I don't know what it was, but he still has that within him. And I thought you saw it in the finals. He defended pretty well in the finals, and a lot of that was two things. Number one, I don't think. I think he's better now guarding the slower, skilled, bigger wings, like the Tatums, the Jaylen Browns, even the Bookers, like the Ja Morants. Those days are over. You got to put Wiggins or somebody on him. But also, he's just that competitive environment kind of just brings that dog out of him still. And I still think he's, a very, very fine third, fourth, fifth type best player on a team. And he showed that last year. He was third, fourth, fifth best player on the title team. He just was that. So I think he still is that.
No doubt. Anthony Slater, 95.7 Game Insider here on the roast on a Thursday morning. Warriors get ready to host the Miami Heat. They won last night in Portland, so they'll be on the back-to-back. Although their starters didn't play more than 29 minutes last night in Portland as they blew them away in the second half. Anthony, as fans pick apart James Wiseman and his defense, a lot of fans also concerned about Jonathan Kuminga not playing too much. We saw Ty Jerome get into the game Tuesday night against Phoenix. We see Moody getting a lot of playing time, well-deserved playing time for Moses Moody. What do you make of the Jonathan Kuminga situation? Do you think a G League stint may be in his future to maybe get some reps?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he'd have to stay out of the rotation for a lot longer. But again, like I mentioned, I do think there's rest nights coming, which should open more minutes for him. But also, he's just, to me, his biggest problem right now is he is a power forward. I think in the NBA right now, his best position is a power forward for this Warriors team. It's a small ball power forward. It's a power forward next to Draymond Green. Remember in the last preseason game when they did go small, it was like Kuminga with, I guess it was the starters. He was in Looney's place, so he was the 4, Draymond was the 5. They put him in the dunker spot. He had 4 dunks in a 5-minute stretch. That's who he is. But the problem for this team is, where are the 4 minutes available? You're starting Draymond and Looney. You're bringing JaMychal Green off the bench, and Kerr seems very, motivated to play JaMychal Green 20-something minutes right now. And then James Wiseman's playing the 5, and like he could take JaMychal Green's minutes, he could take Wiseman's minutes. Maybe you could pick one of those two. But when they've tried to play him, especially the first couple games, it didn't work. They try to play him as a 3, as a small forward. And when he's out there as a small forward, I feel like he's trying to dribble too much. He's trying to create too much. I just don't think he's a 3 right now. Maybe long term, when the dribble gets a little bit more polished, when just his offensive game blossoms a little bit more, maybe. But he's kind of a Pascal Siakam type, 4 in a small unit. And like just those minutes, the way Kerr is deploying his rotation right now, are not available. We could sit here and argue maybe how it should be tinkered, because I do think Jonathan Kuminga should get more minutes. He's too talented.
Yeah.
But it's just not there right now the way he's – but you saw Ty Jerome the other night, and I think fans from the outside looking in are like, why would you play Ty Jerome over him? But it's like without DiVincenzo, they needed a ball handler out there, in Kerr's opinion. So he's going to Jerome because, you're not going to put Kuminga. The problem is if you put Kuminga in those lineups, he's like the 2-3. Like, that's not what he is.
Yeah, I'm with you on that a lot. The tension that we had going into the season, Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, and now it feels like the tension is like young guys versus the old guys and the timelines. Are these both going to be storylines throughout the year? Because it feels like every broadcast is referencing both of these things.
Yeah, look, I can't, I guess, disparage anyone. I wrote like a 5,000-word piece, like deeply looking at the two timelines entering the season, because I did think it was entering this like transition phase.
Right.
Because last season we talked about it playing, because I do think like they made the loud statement at that Kuminga Moody draft, like, no, we're not trading the picks. We're prioritizing the future. It's not all about now. You can win now with these max contract guys, but we're not just, mortgaging everything to help this era. So that was like the statement that this was going to happen. But we all remember in the playoffs last year, no Wiseman for the entire season, no Kuminga, mostly no Moody. Like they won with vets, but we knew this year the young guys had to play, and we knew the young guys had flaws, and we knew the veterans would probably, roll their eyes a little bit as the young guys make defensive mistakes and all that. And it's just, even though we know going into the season to see it play out on a nightly basis, for you guys to have to talk about it every morning, like, yeah, that is going to remain the conversation. Yeah. And depending on if they win or lose, it's going to be viewed in a more positive or negative light. Game 1, they kill the Lakers, and some of the young guys look good, and we're talking about, like, the deepest team in the league. They're growing the next, and the era. And then 3 games later, they're 1-2 in their last 3, and we're talking about, like, can they win? Right. It's just how the NBA season works.
No doubt. Anthony, we'll see you later at Chase Center tonight. Good stuff as always, buddy. We love your work at The Athletic. 95.7 The Game, Anthony Slater. Take care. I'll see you later.
See you, buddy.
All right. Yeah, all right, fellas.
All right, man. Anthony Slater, always good stuff with him.